When I was doing my work trying to structure the material for Rosolimo for this DVD, I was thinking, okay, how do I get it done? And well, maybe it's a good idea that I give some inside information that in my life I have never played Rosolimo on a white side in a tournament game, only in some blitz games. But I have spent a lifetime playing first move e5 versus English opening. Well, what Rosolimo is about, Rosolimo actually you are playing English opening colors reversed. This is the way I see it. So usually, this position which you see in front of your eyes, you get it, let's talk this way. c4, e5, let's say knight c3, knight f6, g3, and bishop e4. And this is what the way I have played this for a period of about 30 years, playing it versus the best players in the world, this kind of system. So now what white has, okay, we have this kind of situation. So we have this system with extra tempo. Tempo, of course, helps. In opening, certainly it helps a lot. So black has a great position. White has a great position because we are having now color reverse system. But now we are no longer happy with equality. Now we want more. So when I was structuring this kind of system, this kind of material, I was trying to structure it in a way to better understand those positions. And also I was looking at games of some famous players from today and from the past. And it is maybe interesting to say that a person who has played versus c4, e5 all his life and entering this kind of positions, knight c3, knight f6, g4, bishop e4, these type of positions, with a great success with the black was Anatoly Karpov. Interesting enough, Anatoly Karpov never played Rosolimo with white. We have only like 2 or 3 games in his entire life. One of those games was versus Chiburdanidze when he was, already former world champion, and the other game was when he was just a junior. Kasparov has played Rosolimo not a lot, but decent number of times, however with a mixed success. By person that is by far the most successful player in Rosolimo is Magnus Carlsen. With the black pieces, Magnus Carlsen has maybe scored 60-70%, versus average rating of 2700. But it was not always, let's say, smooth sailing for him because it was a learning process. And I'm going to start this presentation of this material starting with a game of young Magnus, played in a Siegemar Malmö tournament in 2004. He played it versus Eduardas Rosentalis. Rosentalis is a grandmaster who has played all his life Rosolimo with white, so he certainly knows what he's talking about. And this game is going to resemble English opening, colors reversed, side white, otherwise it would be black, but colors reversed side having this extra tempo. And let's see how this game will go. And I have structured this material this way. I have tried to stay away from forced, complicated lines, because this is not DVD about theory, this is DVD about trying to understand those positions. You will see some of the forced, complicated lines, because, it is difficult to avoid this, and also I didn't try to fully avoid this, but it is based on understanding. So bishop e5, g6, so we have our English position with extra tempo. Castles, bishop g7, rook e1. Knight f6. This is definitely going to lead to this English positions, colors reversed with extra tempo. Another option is, of course, is a move like e5. When you play a move like e5, white has a choice between taking on c6 and doubling black pawns, which black again has a choice to take with a b pawn or to take with a d pawn, which leads to positions which I did work out in this DVD. However, there is also option for white to play a little bit slow system, to play c3, with idea to play a3, and then idea to push b4. As we are going to see throughout this DVD, in general, white would like to push b4, undermining black central pawn, or black's control of the center. This is what is going to, we are going to see this repeatedly in this DVD. So, for example, even in this kind of positions, white can try to undermine this center, even forcefully, by playing move b4 immediately, and after cb4 to play move a3, which is a gambit which Robert Fischer played in his game, in his rematch versus Pasky in 1992. In the case of d takes c6, as we are going to see again, one of the main plans for white is to play move a3 and to try to push b4, which sometimes black counters with move a5, sometimes not. But okay, in this game, Magnus played move knight f6. And e5 happened. A little bit later, Magnus played, actually a year later to be exact, played the same position on the white side versus Alexander Halifman, and he opted for move knight c3. Let's see a little bit how did Halifman equalize. That game, castles, e5, knight e8. It will come to the same, because this knight can travel to c7 via different ways. For example, e5, knight d5, knight c3, knight c7. Or, like what Halifman is going to do, knight c3 castle, c5, knight e8. Knight will come to c7. Magnus took. He could have also postponed this to allow move knight c7. He took it immediately. It is maybe good to know that when you postpone this decision, for example, now if I would take, we will get the same position. But there is a reason why Magnus took it immediately. Namely, if Halifman took d takes c6, and it came down to the same. But let's suppose that he took b takes c6. In this position, move which is often the best move, and this is a similar like in English opening, is a little bit, maybe goes against intuition, maybe is counterintuitive, and this is move d4. You might be wondering, why would white in his right mind be willing to help black to get rid of his double pawns? Well, there is a reason for it, because after take on d4, queen d4, white actually is having advantage in development, and white wants an attack. Queen h4, bishop h6, knight g5. So there is a reason for white to open up this position with the d4. And that's why Magnus took immediately on c6, because now on bc6 he can open it immediately up. If he started d3, knight c7, takes, well, now, okay, it will be different strategy. I can no longer push d4. I mean, I can push it, but then I lost the tempo, which I don't want to. So Magnus took immediately because he understands that after bc6, the best move is d4. And then white indeed can get a strong attack. Where did I see this kind of type of play for the first time? Actually, I saw this from Anatoly Karpov, entering this from this kind of positions with the black. He had one of the famous games which went like this. Rook e8, castles, e4, jump, knight c6, knight moves, takes, d5. d5 is considered the best move here. Takes, knight e3, queen h5. And Karpov got a strong attack and he won. So we have now, we can get a similar situation, if we will get it here, with tempi up, obviously. Here if b takes, I have a same situation, but of course knight is still on e8, which is good for me. There is a reason why d3 can be moved to consider this move order, because a move like knight c7, there is here an extra option, which, okay, I don't know if this is a better option than immediately taking, but it is an idea which is useful to know. I have seen this idea in some of the recent games, but I think one of those young Americans, I think Xiong, this is move a4. This is an idea, because if you take, okay, I got an open file. If you hit my bishop, I don't know if you really want to hit my bishop, because I have two options. Number one, I can change my mind and go to c4. Number two, I can take. Now, however you're gonna take, even if you take with a b pawn, this inclusion of a4, a6 is probably to white's favor, but white can change his mind and play move bishop c4. Now let us go back to Carlsen's game. He took, Halifman took, d3. There is always debate here whether to play move d3 or to play first move h3. When you play first move d3, you allow this kind of trade. And the knight will travel to e6. Is it clever or not? Well, on one hand, black now gave up a bishop pair, but on the other hand, black is having a little bit less of a space. So PC straight is then not a bad deal. Black would like to play some moves like probably some moves like, let's say, knight e6, queen d7, and then maybe jump, or maybe to play some move like f5 straight away. Opinions vary whether this is something which white should prevent or something that black should do. Vladimir Kramnik did play bishop g4 in some of his games, but in general, black is not in a hurry to give his bishop pair, but like I said, opinions vary. So there are many very strong white players who play here move h3 in order to avoid this move bishop g4. Okay, d3. Halifman plays knight c7. He is not interested in taking this knight. Bishop g4. He's not interested in taking this knight. Knight e4 tempo move. b6. And here move h3 was played. As we are going to see, compared to this game, compared to game of Rosenthalis versus Carlsen, Rosenthalis will somehow develop a little bit faster so that he would stay away from move h3, and this a little bit faster development will give him an advantage. Halifman is here going to equalize in a manner that is useful to remember, because we are going to be seeing this happening in many games. Knight e6, bishop e3, knight d4. This is kind of standard way of playing. Knight is very annoying on d4. On the other hand, you don't really want to play move like c3, because you would love to have this pawn stable and defend it. So bishop e3, knight d4, takes, bishop f4, c5, queen f3. White would love to get an attack. Bishop e6, queen g3. Okay, white would like to have his stuff running. Like I said, this. And preferably mate. But black has a way to defend, and this is f6. This is a standard way for black to prevent this attack on his king. Carlsen will do the same thing. The only possible drawback for black is if white takes control of the e-file. This is going to bother Magnus in this game with Rosenthalis, because Rosenthalis did manage to do this. Halifman was just in time in order to oppose white on e-file, and position is now about equal. Okay, g5 is a threat, so bishop h6, bishop f5 takes, rook is going to come to e8. Position is about equal, and soon game finished as a draw. Now let us see game between Rosenthalis and Carlsen. So Rosenthalis played e5, knight d5, knight c3, knight c7, takes, knight e4. Rosenthalis does not want to give Magnus option to choose whether or not to play move like g6, because whether or not to play move like bishop g4, because okay, pawn is hanging, and you cannot, you can defend it with a move like b6, of course, but if you play move like b6, you need to count that you are going to that right to castle will be lost, because knight f6 check. Obviously, you don't want to take it with the bishop because you don't like this. Nobody likes this, and you don't want to give away the dark square bishop. This is also very obvious. So that would imply that black will need to play move like king f8. Okay, white goes back. White lost two moves, but black is going to have some difficulty solving his king problems. He will probably need to solve his king problem this way, and this is not exactly what everybody wants. So Magnus played move 96, d3, castles, bishop e3, b6. But now, compared to a game which I just did show between Carlsen and Halifman, white is here in a better shape because he didn't play move h3 yet. Instead of pawn on h3, because Magnus versus Halifman had exactly the same position with a pawn on h3. He had this. Rosenthalis is going to have this position, but not pawn on h3, but queen on d2, which is a better deal. Because now, if black tries to somehow follow up on Halifman plan, well, after knight d4, I can take knight d4, cd4, and I'm ready to play move bishop h6. So it is a huge difference. And now the same idea of f5 does not actually produce the same result, because after ef6, bishop g7, king g7, queen f4, we have this file. We don't have the same situation, because now, compared to Halifman game, it is a different story. White is controlling the file. You cannot kick my knight now out because, okay, there is this move knight d6. You cannot play move queen d5 because also there is knight d6. This position is, for example, clearly better for white because of the e-file control. And we will see this, that in many cases, black, for example, tries to play before playing move f5. Black tries to play move like a5, rook a7, in order to try to bring his rook to control the e-file. In this particular position, white is clearly better because black is not in time with such a kind of action. So, queen d2, Magnus did not play move knight d4, I think because of this reason, like I said, because with f5 you can now not equalize, while at the same time you do need to worry about this king. This is basically often problem. You need to worry about this king. So f5, takes, bishop h6. In general, this bishop straight is a good idea for white, because then this king becomes a little bit weaker. h4 was also here an interesting move, because after a move like a5 to try to bring this rook in play, like what I was talking about, probably move bishop f4 is annoying, Because if you take a bishop pair, normally speaking, black should be doing here very well, but we have this e file, and after, let's say, move like rook a7, knight e6, again white has advantage. And white has advantage because of e file control. If you want to kick my knight, again I will, let's say, take. E file is very annoying. It's very annoying in this position. It is also maybe good to mention that h4 is having another element. You might be wondering, okay, we understood what white wants. White wants to maybe trade those bishops. He's hoping to get some kind of attack, and white also wants to utilize the e file. What does the black want? What is, let's say, potential way for black to get the counterplay? Let's suppose with white that, okay, I'm going to make some stupid move. I'm going to lose a tempo. By the way, if I will play a4, this is not a tempo loss because this is a threat, so you would need to play move a5. But let's say that I play move a3. What is potentially black's counterplay? One of the ways for black to create counterplay is to push g5 in such a position. Then you are limiting this bishop. I can no longer play move bishop h6. And at some moment, I will need to start being worried about g4 pawn push. Or h6, then f5, g4 pawn push. So move g5 is counterplay for black in this kind of position. Bishop h6. Queen d7. Magnus, at the start of his career, did not, like I said, it took him some time to start scoring so fantastically. Because about some months later after this game, he did not play move queen d7, he played move a5. Trying to indeed solve the e-file problem by bringing his rook. Happened bishop g7, king g7, knight g3. Rook a7, h4. h5, rook e4. Rook e7, rook e1. Rook e8, queen e3. Position looks equal, but it is not exactly equal because e-file pin is very annoying for black. White had the pressure and white went on to win the game. So it took Magnus some kind of, let's say, learning curve to become such an expert he is today in these kind of systems in Rossolimo. So he played move queen d7, bishop g7, king g7, a3. Why a3? Because, like I said, this is usually good trade. Counterplay with g5 is not really working here because, okay, because of weak king, you need to be worried about some stuff. a3, knight d4. In general, good move, improving the pawn structure. Because also, if you allow me to play move b4, you cannot play this move knight d4 any longer. Can you stop me? Well, not really, because after I play b4, you take, let's say, rook trade. Black has a problem here. Obvious problem because there are pawn weaknesses. And there is going to be a file problem. So white is obviously having advantage here. So Magnus played knight d4, improving his pawn structure, in general good deal. But b4, white takes, because black would, what would black like? This trade would be for black kind of okay. Because then black would play move rook e8, start trading heavy pieces and come to a draw. White wants to prevent it and to build up his advantage based on a e-file and potentially weak king. So b4. Bishop e7, queen f4. As we see, black is having a problem because black cannot oppose white. If white would here, let's say, play some stupid move, black would be doing very well. he will double his rooks and he will be okay. But problem is black cannot oppose white because there is this move knight d6. And then you don't want to trade rooks. At the same time, you don't want this because we are no longer having a heavy pieces ending which is equal because of e-file control. White is simply much better in such a kind of positions because of the e-file. So Magnus played move rook ad8, stopping the jumps. h4, playing for potentially weak king. h5, f3. Not clear if this is probably not the best move. What Rosenthalis wants to do, and he is going to get it done, he would like to play for a weak king by pushing g4. In general, interesting idea. However, this is going to have a tactical drawback. Tactical drawback that in some queen's endings, king might be open and perpetual check may happen. Probably best move was a4. a5 is very annoying threat. So let's say if black wants to make some pass move, this is very annoying. At the same time, you cannot stop me because obviously I will take and get the b file. Actually, here I will win exchange. a5 will be blunder, but even if it would not be blunder, it would be lousy move because it will give me b file. So c5 is probably best move. This motif black has takes, and this position, if white would not be having e-file control, it would be a draw. But it is not, because white has this e-file control, and this is very annoying. Rook d8, trying to oppose me. Rook f7, rook e6. Okay, with rook f7, now you are threatening to take a pawn, because I don't have queen check and take, and I don't have a rook check either. But what is the problem? The problem is that after rook e6, you still actually cannot take, because I have this move. And also I have a move like a5. This is far from equal, because white is building up on his e-file control and domination. Rook d8 is making sense, getting into queen ending. Here is coming what I was talking about. For example, if white pawn would can be on f3, most probably this ending would be a draw. It would be a draw because black would be having perpetual checks, right? Later. As we have it the way we do, white is much better because g3, you don't have perpetual checks, while pawns are hanging. Since black does not have perpetual check, the best for him is to grab a pawn. But now happens queen d8, threat is mate in 1. King g7, check. Takes, threat is mate in 1. Queen e8. If king goes back, I can give a check and grab a pawn. Okay, queen goes back, same story, check. Queen c5, and this position should be winning for white, because there is no perpetual check, and black cannot comfortably somehow be pushing this pawn, because white has centralized queen. d4 pawn is also a weakness. So such a position is white should win. Also, white can run with his king at some stage. And this is something which white had to do. White played move f3. It could be that white completely underestimated black's resource, which Magnus is to find. White wants g4 and to open up black king, but black is to move and Magnus reacts correctly. c5. bc5, bishop e4. Rook e4. bc5, rook a1, so we have a same position, but what we were just analyzing, but pawn is on f3. Rook d8. Queen ending is now draw, because of weak king. And now Rosenthalis resorts to his original plan, g4. Rook e4, queen e4. There is a domination on e-file, but this king is also open. Position is now about equal. Magnus played move queen d6. hg4 was also okay. But, okay, it is not so simple. Why? Because this position looks promising for white. But black is okay after c4, takes queen c7, check, rook f7. Endgame is equal. This was the other way. Magnus played queen d6, king g2, hg4, queen e7, rook e7. Difficult call. Okay, this is not a theme of this DVD, but it is interesting for understanding of chess. Critical moment to move the king and hope to save the rook ending, or to play move rook f7, entering a pawn ending, which is maybe a draw, maybe lost, because white is having further pawn. Not an easy call, even if you are somebody that is to become a world champion and one of the best standing players ever. Magnus here made a mistake and made move king h6. Rook f7 was making a draw. Rook f7, king f7, fg4, king e6. White cannot make a use of his further pawn. King f3, f5. Liquidating position, or asking for a move like g5, which now no longer allows white to create his further pass pawn. After king e5, position is probably about equal. Let's say push, push, king g3. And now let's say king e6, king f4, king d6. Here even this opposition doesn't matter. Though I don't need to allow this, I could also have started with move like king d6. But even such a kind of position is a draw. Interestingly enough, move f4 is a draw. It looks like a blunder, but it's a draw because there is resource in c4. Takes king e4, we get into some pawn race, maybe not initially easy for a human to work it out, but now we have a drawn queen ending. However, all of this is not necessary. This position is about equal. But Magnus had to enter this ending. He did not do it. He played move king h6, fg4, and now his situation is difficult. We simply have a rook ending where one rook is dominating the other. c4, the best chance. If white would take, then indeed black would manage to save the game. But white, of course, doesn't want to do this. White is improving his king. cd3, cd3. So white has here actually two trumps. Better king and better rook. Rook c8. White is playing very precise. King f4, threatening a forced mate and forcing black for a concession. g5, ag5, fg5, king e4, rook c1, king d4, rook g1, rook e4, the safest, rook a1, king c5, rook a3. Black establishes material balance, but okay, one pawn is running much faster than the other, and this king is also cut, so cannot help. Push, king tries to help, d5, king b5, king f6, but not close enough, d6, rook d3, king c6, a5, d7. It is not even a pawn race because one side is much further than the other. So king b7, rook b3, king c7, check, king d8. Pawn cannot improve, king f7, and now simple chess, check, king cannot go up. The only way is to play king f8 and rook e5. Threatening to take pawns, and also if pawn runs, threatening a very simple primitive bridge. And d pawn queens. And Magnus designed. This was from the early stage of Carlsen's career, and I think that this game also shows very well problems that black may get if white, let's say, achieve some position like this, where white has e-file control and a safer king, and positions like this are very difficult for black because of this e-file control and the lack of counterplay. The only counterplay actually is counterplay which Magnus did spot. This is these c5 ideas in order to get into heavy pieces ending. But even getting into heavy pieces ending, the problem can be the e-file. During this DVD, we will come through some other examples of this e-file control, and of course this English opening colors reversed with an extra tempi. But I thought this was kind of a good start because it involves easy example and a famous player, though very young at the time. But I thought this was interesting also to see how the understanding of those kind of positions of Magnus was evolving over the time.